Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys have all had a nice Thanksgiving break, and I hope you've had a chance to go home and enjoy some very good home cooking. Now, in the past couple of months, I've been getting some comments about me gaining weight, and it is true, I have been getting a lot of weight in the past couple of months due to lack of exercise, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to change that for the month of December. But as we all know, a little bit of weight gain has never really stopped us developers from learning how to code, right? But anyhow, let's get down to business for today's video. And a couple of viewers of this channel have been asking me for a lesson on how to fetch contacts on our iOS devices, such as this one. So for today's video, I'm going to show you guys the implementation on how to do it. But first, let me give you a demo as to what this feature looks like right here inside of the simulator. And basically our contacts application that you're seeing right now has a list of a couple of sections containing these names, and these names are coming from the contacts on the simulator. Now by default, the simulator comes with a couple of contacts here with the phone numbers as well. So John Appleseed, Kate Bell, we have Ann, Daniel, David, and Hank at the very bottom. So if you want to go ahead and add contacts into your simulator yourself, such as Amy Adams and James Avery, you can do that by going into the home screen and typing in C or contacts. You get your contacts app here. Click into that. These are all your contacts, and then you just want to hit the plus button up here. And let's just give this guy a name of Bob Zoo perhaps. And if you hit the done, Bob will show up inside of your contact list. So let's take a look at how we can fetch contacts using the contacts API right now inside of Xcode. Okay, so let me go ahead and take you back inside of the Xcode editor over here. And I'm currently open with the contacts LBTA project, which comes from the previous lesson inside of this series. And let me just run the application right off the bat here to show you exactly what our app looks like inside of the simulator on the right side. And basically we have a contacts UI table view that contains a couple of sections with all these names on the left side. And these big bright yellow buttons allow you to open and close your sections like so. And in the last episode, we were also able to implement the feature that allows us to save these favorite stars. And if you scroll up and down, you'll see that these stars remain highlighted like so. And you can also disable if you really wanted to do so. Okay, so everything looks pretty good, and all of that code hopefully was pretty straightforward to follow. And for today's lesson, where do we want to start? Well, let's head on over to view to load. And this is pretty much where your custom code needs to be written whenever you launch your Vue controller. And at the very top, I'm just going to say fetch contacts like that. And this is a custom function that I need to implement somewhere. Now, typically you would put it either down here or over here, but to make this video a little bit easier to follow, I'm going to put it right under the two-dimensional array. And so private function fetch contacts, print attempting to, let's see, fetch contacts today. And let me just run this code. And again, the reason why I always use print statements, especially in these videos, is to confirm that the code is executing the way I would expect it to. And this statement shows up down in the console below. So a really good start here. And let's see, what do we want to do in order to fetch the contacts inside of my simulator currently? So these are the contacts that I need. And let's see, the first thing you need to do is to import the contacts framework up at the very top of your file. And this gives us access to some of the APIs that we need to call. The first API is the CN contact store, so contact store, and just use an empty constructor because that's really the only option you have. Now down below, store has a method on it called request access, and this requires you to fill in two parameters, the entity type, which is just dot contacts, and then the completion handler, you just hit enter like that. So you get these two parameters here that you also have to type in something for. And the first thing, I'm just going to color granted and ERR for the error. So whenever you request access, you might encounter an error. So you have to first check that and say let error equals error. And this is called optional binding. And down below, you'll just type out a friendly message of failed to request access. and print out the error at the very end. If you have an error, you should immediately return out of this block because you can't really do anything meaningful after the error occurs. And down below, we just simply check if, let's see, granted, like that. Print, access granted, and then close that off. Otherwise, we will print, let's see, access denied, which is always a scary, scary use case. So if I run this code now, we're going to probably crash the application, and I'll show you why in just a little bit down below. Okay, so the app has crashed, and the console down below shows you why, because it attempted to access privacy sensitive data without a usage description. And so it tells you to fill in the info.plist with this contacts usage description. And if you haven't done this before, it's a rather easy step to kind of fix your code here. So hit that little plus button over here. You just want to type in privacy with a capital P. And then over here, you get the contacts usage description. And on the right side, just type in whatever you want. So we need your contacts, and use a bang, bang, bang. And this message will actually show up when you request for the privacy sensitive information. So I'm going to run the code one more time with this added inside of the plist, and you see here, we need your contacts. And you actually have to hit OK in order to grant access to the store. And so once I hit OK, you'll see access granted, hit OK, and access granted down below. Now, if you want to view this file inside of, let's see, a property list format instead, I think you can do it. So I think this is the property list, view it as source code. And this right here, this key was the error message that we were seeing below previously. Okay, so let's go ahead and head back into the view controller file. And whenever we are granted access to the contact store, we can now access the contacts inside of our device, or the simulator in this case. So what I would need to do is to say store.enumerate contacts with some kind of fetch request and using block thing. And there are a couple of other ways of using the store to fetch your contacts, such as store. And I think you can say predicate, or let's see, unified contacts matching predicate and keys to fetch. So that also works. You just want to make sure you read the documentation on the right side, just to confirm that you're using the correct one. So this parameter, contact fetch request, we will construct it up above with let request equals cn contact fetch request, and luckily the autocomplete gives me exactly what I need. So we'll use keys to fetch, and it is a cn key descriptor. So what is that? Well, we will construct that above with keys, and we will set it equal to, let's see, cn given name key, just like that. And now you can just punch in keys inside of this parameter, and everything should be okay. You'll get this little error message on the right side. Just make sure you fix that, and it adds this over here into your code, and everything should be fine. All right, so really easy to construct this request. Over here, you just want to say request, just paste that in, and for this, you want to say enter. You'll get this using block completion handler. Okay, so what exactly is this contact and this unsafe mutable pointer thing? Well, this is the contact that you get back. So in the case of our simulator, you're going to get Amy Adams, John Appleseed, James Avery, and all this good stuff every time you kind of have a contact that you can access. So this pointer over here is actually the stop pointer. So stop pointer, if you want to stop enumerating, is the enumerating. And I guess I'll go over later exactly how to access that guy. But anyhow, inside of this block over here, you can access the contacts given name like that. So let's print out the contacts given name, and I believe this should work. Now this over here says that the enumerate contacts actually requires you to try, and whenever you have a try, you need a do catch let error, and print, let's see, fail to enumerate contacts, and let's print out the error at the very end there. And inside of the do catch, you just want to execute the try code. So let me paste that in there and run the code now. So there are a lot of braces here and it's pretty scary. And I'll show you how to fix these braces later on as well. So right off the bat here, we've launched the application and we've been able to enumerate through all of our contacts. So access granted, we got Kate, Daniel, John, Anna, Hank, David, Amy, all these names down below in the console, and they all match pretty much the given name, which is more commonly referred to as the first name for a contact. And then the bolded name over here is the family name. So you have to be very careful not to access things that you haven't been, let's say, granted access to. For example, if you say family name when you're inside of the enumeration block here, you are not going to be able to access the family name because of improper access credentials. I guess that's what I'll call it. And so basically, whenever you want to access the family name, you have to give the keys the family name as well. So family name key. And let's just be a little bit more detailed about this by including the phone number key as well. So we have the given name, the last name, and then potential phone numbers that exist for a contact. And for example, we have, let's see, Kate Bell has a phone number of 8583 over there, and they have another phone number which we can get if we're really interested in doing so. So print contact dot phone number. First, I think we can say value and string value. And then I think I will remove the error with the nil coalescing of the question mark and empty string. So if you do all of that, you check your console below, you see Kate Bell, Kate Bell phone number. So Kate Bell phone number, and all that information is pretty much readily available for you to use down below over here. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here by actually showing these contacts inside of our table view instead of these kind of random names on the right side. And the way I'm going to do that is to append these contacts into my two-dimensional array over here, or even fully replace it. So let's see what I want to do. Go back to the enumeration block, and right at the top, I'm just going to say, var, and let's see what I call in here. Expandable names. I have these contacts that I need to construct, and because contact is a class name that is kind of overloaded right now, I'm going to rename the contact that I'm kind of defining as a custom struct by saying refactor and rename. And a better name for this class is going to be this over here. So you see all of the places in which we're using this contact thing. And I'm just going to start typing favoritable, contact, and let's just hit enter. And all of the places of the code that uses that class will be changed automatically. So if you hit the build over here, you get favoritable contact, go back, and now we're inside of the enumeration block for the contact names. So up at the top, I'm going to say favoritable contacts equals an empty list of favoritable contacts and construct it like that. If you build your code, build your project, everything's going to be okay. So let's go ahead and use this to kind of contain all of the contacts for us. So the way I'm going to do that is to say favoritable contacts and append a new favoritable contact. Hopefully that's a word. So contact like that. And this needs you to kind of pass in a string and a has favorited boolean. So this star is the favorited boolean. So it starts off as false. And the name is what we need. So what do I want to say over here? So contact.given name plus space plus contact.family name. And now every time I enumerate through a contact, we're going to fill this array with this contact over there. And at the very end, I'm just going to say, let's see, self.two-dimensional array equals something. And let's see, let names equals expandable names. And let's see, is expanded. So expandable names is pretty much a section for our table view. And it starts off as expanded. So this is a true. And the names is an array of favorable contacts, which is obviously this thing up at the very top. And I can just use names and put it in there. So two-dimensional array is just a list of these expandable name things. So you can kind of tell what it is by looking at it. And once your application is up, you have all of your contacts inside of your list right here. Okay, so really good job, everyone. And I would like to now show you how you can add the phone numbers inside of these cells as well. And let me show you what that looks like by going back to our finished product over here. And you see the phone numbers appear right under the names. And it also has a different format to it. So let me go back to my application. And the way you want to do this is to actually capture some additional information inside of this favorable contact class. And the way I'm going to do this is to actually modify the structure of the expandable names favorite contact. And I don't really want to only capture the name, right? So you can also say phone number and let it be of type string so that you can use it later. And that's perfectly fine, but I would rather capture more information. So for example, these contacts inside of your list, they also have an address. So you can add a bunch of properties here, or you can make it easier on yourself by just importing the contacts API, or the framework rather, and call this contact and just let it be of CN contact. That pretty much holds all that information. For example, the name, last name, phone number, address, and anything else you would be interested in using. So I'm going to build my project with that minor change. Go back to the view controller, and let me fix this before I fix the thing on the top. So all you have to do is comment that out, and up above we will execute the appending one more time with favorable contacts, append. This is a favorable contact, like that. And this has a new constructor of contact and has favorited, which is going to be false. So this contact pretty much comes from the enumeration block up there. I'm going to paste that directly in, and it should be okay. So I'm going to build my project one more time. And let's see, this over here, we have these names from the old construct of the favorable contact class. So what I'm going to do is to just make this really simple by commenting out everything. And let me just redefine this variable and let it be of type expandable names. And this is the syntax to declare an empty version of this array. So with that change now introduced, you can build your project one more time. And down at the very bottom for cell for row add, we have this one simple problem of modifying the contact name. So this doesn't really exist anymore, so it's really a contact, but that doesn't really make any sense, right? So what I'm going to do instead is to rename this over here, this contact variable. And you get Command Control E to rename all of these variables, and I will say, let's see, favorable contact is what it's called. Hit enter, and over here we'll just say, let's see, contact dot given name. I think that's what we can access. And let's see over here, I don't really care about this anymore, so let me just comment that out and run my code one more time. So if you guys are interested in fixing this, you can, feel free to do so. So we have Kate, Daniel, John, and all the contacts inside of my list now. So let's kind of do this for real by including the family name as well. So I'm going to say plus space plus and favorable contact. And inside of there, we have the contact. And then we have the family name like that. And again, the favorable contact is this class over here that contains a contact. That's how we are able to access the given name and family name. And now that we have all this set up properly, we're just going to add the phone number to the bottom of these names by saying cell.detail text label .text equals favorable contact. Inside of there is a contact, and then we can say phone numbers .first, and then value, and then string value for the string version of the phone number. So again, this is only the first phone number, and if you have multiple phone numbers, you have to kind of figure out which one you want to have access to. And we can run this code one more time, and I think there's going to be a problem with the detailed text label not showing. And the reason why this is by default, these cells that you're kind of dequeuing over here, they're only going to have the text label and they're not going to have the detail label. So you can fix this by saying let cell equals contact cell. And inside of here, we'll use style. This is going to be .subtitle, and this will be cell ID for our string. And let me comment out that. So contact cell is over here, and this is the contact cell. Let me comment that out and run again. And so contact cell is our custom class that we created in the last video, I believe. And it's just simply this, which is a subclass of UI table view cell. So this is how you construct a brand new one with the subtitle version of it. And once you do that, you're allowing the table views to render each one of these cells with a subtitle label down at the bottom over there. And that's kind of how we construct a list of contacts using the contacts API. If you want to change the font of the text label so that your UI looks much better, you can say font equals UI font, bold system font of, I don't know, 15. I guess that makes sense. You can also change the font of the detail label as well, but I'll leave that up to you. And that's kind of how we differentiate between the given name, the family name, and then the phone number right below. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how we can fetch contacts very easily using the contacts API. Now, in the next lesson, I want to teach you how we can group our contacts based on their last names so that we can introduce sections inside of our table view. Okay, so if you're interested in learning more about Swift development, I highly recommend checking out the Instagram Firebase course, which is over here. And I just recently finished releasing a couple of more bonus lessons on how to actually use push notifications through Firebase cloud messaging so that we can notify our users every time a new follower is following our account. And also, if you want to learn about core data and how you can save information to your application, check out the core data course using the link down below as well, and that's this application over here. If you've been curious about how to pass information from one controller to the next, we also go through a couple of lessons on how to do that. For example, I'll click on the Apple company over here, and we list out all the information regarding the Apple company. And finally, if you want to check out the source code for today's video, make sure to use the download link in the description below. And that's going to be it for me today. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye, guys.